Bitcoin set to open a new futures pit, and will we ever get tree-free markets? What's up, everybody? It's Bubba's Bottom Line. Voice is a little shot, but here we are, ready to rock and roll again. Another new week, another new high, and the markets only know how to go up. And hey, it is what it is. We don't get worried about that stuff. But again, that is watching and looking at what the market footprints that bring us. And right now, they're bringing us markets that want to go higher. You know, if we just take a look at the overall market dynamics, we are in the most seasonable, as we've said every week. A lot of seasonality here. This is not necessarily of any meaning, but I think as you look for the Dow to approach 25,000, is there any doubt that we'll probably get 25,000 and probably this week? I would say the answer is probably there's no doubt. You know, one of the things we can look at in any market, especially a market that can be as manipulated as the Dow, is that it doesn't take a lot of buying power in certain stocks to push that index dramatically higher. We saw it last week with Goldman Sachs and Boeing and others, and I'm not saying that was manipulated buying, I'm just saying that it does not take a lot of buying of the right stocks to push the markets up. So I think 25,000 is there. I don't think there's any doubt about it. We're not going to get this close without taking it out. The bigger question would be, is this the final chapter of this bull market? And I don't have the answer to that, but I would say that the likelihood of a sell-off coming at some point is pretty high. You know, we've gone almost, almost 2 years without a 3% sell-off. I mean, if we go back to the absolute dead low of this market, it was February 11th of 2016. That was a Thursday, just in case you forgot. But we basically have gone straight up since then. Now, can we go higher? There's no laws that say that we can't go higher. There's no laws that says there won't be a collapse. All right? I think that we can honestly say that there's going to be a collapse at some point. Does that make it bad or good? I think that doesn't matter. I think that when you continue to try to drive markets artificially, you end up with market collapses. I think when you end up, doing things with markets that are not natural, that's what happens. Now, as far as the overall economy, every report tells us that how good it's going. But I think it's interesting, I was in Vegas last week doing a seminar, and I took just a small survey, only 30 people or 35 people, and asked, and the answer I got was, the only one who said that the economy was really good was somebody who lives, if you guess it, the swamp in Washington, D.C. Well, gee, shocking that all they manufacture there is garbage, right? I mean, they manufacture blowhard BS. And of course, that's obviously where all the politicians live, and that's where all the crooks live. And of course, that's where they continue to take our money and put it in Washington, D.C., so they can pretend and have voting to vote them back into office. Okay, so let's look at it from that standpoint. And as we look around the globe and we look at the type of jobs we have, we've got great jobs. Great, yeah, we're making less money we were making 20 years ago. That's a wonderful situation to be in. I hope my next 20 years I make less again. It's a real design flaw in the way that we operate in this country right now. And of course, you tie in a garbage, crappy tax plan, but the markets like it. But think about the markets for a minute and then wonder to yourself, who's driving the markets? All right. And as I just explained earlier, the markets can kind of be manipulated by price by certain things. Now, I'm thrilled that my IRAs and my SEP and my retirement plan is doing great. I'm not upset about it. I don't think that it's warranted. I don't think the business world is anywhere near as strong as we would like you to make it, to think it is. I think that the tax plan is an overall abomination of adding $1.5 trillion. It's hard to even say that. $1.5 trillion to the deficit. I'm surprised that some of the hawks did not stand stronger against that. When do they start to decide to pay back all of this debt? That's what I want to know. Now, of course, this is going to be a debt bubble like everyone before it. And you know, you can hope and you can dream and you can pray that it's not going to be. But we know that that's just the way life goes. Now, again, first of all, I don't think we should be so worried and so concerned about the market collapse or the market sell-off. That would probably actually be healthier. I mean, right now, okay, 10% of the companies can only exist because of the cheap money. Now, you know, the cheap money comes at a price. And I think this is one of the things that nobody quite figures out. And I'm not an economist, and I'm not trying to play one today, right? But I can see the simple things. I can see that when you make less money, you spend less money. I can see that if you go back and look at history, when they do these tax holidays or these tax plans, that especially now, a lot of that money goes right back into rebuying stocks. So really, what does it do? It makes the rich richer. Now again, I wish I was one doing that. But my point is very simple, all right? It does not trickle down to the average guy. It does not trickle down to small business, which is what we really need to get some creation going in here, is a trickle down. So as we hear the pundits every day talk about how great the stock market is, and we're 25,000, 24, it's like an auction. You know, well, actually, I guess trading is an auction. But when we look at all of these things, do we really have something that we can really sink our teeth into, some sustainability of some real growth? And my answer to that would be no. If you just take a look around at what's going on, all right, let's start with Bitcoin. All right. Now, Bitcoin opened its first futures pit last week, and they did an okay week, but you have a margin requirement of like 50% margin. If you want to carry it overnight, you need 125% margin. And volume was, I would say, mediocre. Okay. Now, what is behind Bitcoin? And of course, we have a new one coming out this week from the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. You see me, they have another product coming out that's even a little bit bigger than the one at the CBOE. Then we still got the NASDAQ, and I'm sure there'll be options. But what is the story of Bitcoin, and what is it telling us? And it's not only Bitcoin, it's the ICOs, the initial coin offerings. It's the, you know, Ethereum, Monero. I mean, there's so many. From my understanding, there was 450 new initial coin offerings in November. Now, what is an initial coin offering? Well, that's one of the things that I want to know. You know, look at where are all these coins going? How many Ponzi schemes are going to be designed from the new initial coin offerings? I mean, I understand the Bitcoin now. It took me years to get there, and unfortunately, I didn't buy any. But I understand it. But I also think when you look at the cryptocurrency world, right, I believe you now have more of what we would call this is part of a revolution, right? You know, in 1776, we fought with muskets. I think now we're fighting with currencies. I think this is one of the reasons you see so much fear from the big banks and from the government, because they're worried how they're going to get their share. Now, if you just take a little brief look at history, all right, the government has operated basically with the Fed. Now, again, the Fed's a private corporation, if you don't know that, but they're kind of commingled, they're kind of tied at the hip. And they've been able to operate because the Fed continues to put out this cheap money that allows everything to happen. And of course, they do pass the bill on to the middle class. So we'll call this the Tea Party of 2017, 18, 19. Now, when you see a revolution, you know, they don't have to be fighting. But I think what you're seeing is you're seeing the exit out of a lot of US dollars and out of a lot of currencies because of all the manipulation. You know, one of the problems is, and which will be in my commentary later, but it's the free market system. And I think what we've seen here over the, you know, it's been going on not just a year, not just 2 years, not just 10, probably since Greenspan took over the Fed. And that is really the destruction of the true free market system. So when we look at Bitcoin, is that really just a revolution against the establishment and the establishment of money? I think I could make a pretty good case that that is really the story. not only is it an alternative place to invest, and again, I am not investing in Bitcoin at these levels today, but is it something that has realistic value? Probably. I would say to you that the cryptocurrency world is here to stay. Is Bitcoin a bubble? Probably. Okay. I mean, but again, all markets are on bubbles. If you just happen to have time to take a look at a chart of Bitcoin since its inception, so we'll say 7 years, or Amazon since its inception, which is what, almost 25 years, you would see a chart that would look almost the same. So why is it acceptable that Amazon goes straight up, but Bitcoin shouldn't? Now, again, that's a lot of the negative energy being brought to us by, the people that just don't believe. And of course, we've talked about this in the past, but some people just don't believe, right? They don't believe in anything. And they believe in doing things the same way they've always done them. It's the same people that wanted to vote, that would still vote for Hillary Clinton today. Forget about during the election, but if you would still vote for her today, that there's something, you need to check something out. Because with all of the things surrounding them, it's very hard to believe that anybody could want to vote for her at this point in time. Okay, but again, this is not politics here. This is just when you look at it. But there's certain people, this is the way we've always done it. This is the way we're going to do, and we walk around with blinders on, and we don't understand. So now you've got, some interest here, and you've got two factions. You've got the debt against, you've got those are for, and then of course you've got the government saying, well, how are we going to get ours? And that really comes back to the more of the true story, I think, here, is the government's not for or against. They're just for or against how they're going to tax it so they can continue to run that phony place in Washington that they run that continues to run at a major deficit, that continues to add on to the debt, that refuses to act responsibly and take care of business. So when we get past that, we might actually have a real live competitive currency against anything else. Because is Bitcoin, other than it doesn't have a physical presence, is it any different than gold? All right. Does Bitcoin, or pick one, is that not the same as gold? Is that not an alternative currency? Is that not something you can alternatively save or store or spend? Certainly, with things that have happened, if you're holding physical gold, which again I do and I like to, but does this not have the same effect? And I would certainly say to anybody, I would never take all of my money and run out and buy the Bitcoin or any one of them, but certainly to have a small investment in one or two of them wouldn't be no big deal. In the meantime, we're going to step out here for a break. This is Bubba's Bottom Line. Great to be here. Sorry I missed some of the updates last week. It was too hard if you saw the pictures. It was a tough do doing it from Vegas. But in the meantime, we're going to step out here for a break. We got a lot more to go. I'm on a roll. In the meantime, don't forget to check out highschoolinvesting.com. This is something that we're doing to try to help educate our youth. And of course, we've said we are in 300 high schools. We're trying to get to all of them. But of course, that costs money. And since I've supported it myself for 6 years, I'm running out of capital to be able to put there. And I want to be able to do more. So if you go to Patreon, patreon.com/Bubba Trading, you can go help us out there. That's patreon.com/Bubba Trading. In the meantime, don't forget to get the Bubba Show every day from 2 to 3 Eastern at libertytalk.fm. And make sure that you get Bubba's Daily Update. You're here listening to Bubba's Bottom Line. Let's get the update every day. I'll email it to you. Just go to BubbaTrading.com and check it out, and you can sign up. It's free. I deliver it to you. I deliver it, hand delivered. Anyways, in the meantime, we're going to stop. We're going to come back now, and we'll go back to the show. And we want to make sure that we get you all set up and ready for the week ahead and for the new year and everything else. Welcome back to Bubba's Bottom Line. Todd, Bubba Horwitz, and of course, hey, we've been discussing the revolution possibly of the Bitcoin, but let's take a look at some of the markets and the comparisons. So we know the Bitcoin's open. We know that there's some liquidity, but we know they're making it very challenging to trade. And in fact, TD Ameritrade is just starting to allow that to trade through them now, because again, these brokers, they're very afraid of everything because they just want to keep taking all the money, right? Nothing wrong with that. So the market's made all-time new highs. Now, if you look at why, all right, you can talk about growth, which I don't personally see. All right, and again, I'm not an economist, but I see lousy growth. I could really try to poke some holes in that 3% GDP number that they're touting around right now, because I really don't see it. Now, you've got farmers and producers are getting slaughtered on grain prices. All right, now we're winding down, and this is the time that they're now, if they didn't cash in and hedge earlier, you've got corn down at almost 20-year lows. You've got wheat down at, 15-year lows. You got soybeans that have really took it on the chin. Now, again, they're underwater dramatically. Hopefully, my guys have enough money to store and not have to worry about it. And if you don't have enough to store, then you have to weigh the value of how much it costs you to store versus just maybe buying some options. But at the end of the day, where's that inflation? And of course, inflation should come from a natural supply-demand curve, not from because the Federal Reserve wants it. That's another part of the price discovery model. But so we've got some very tough times going on there. But yet, of course, the stock market goes up to all-time new highs. And Thursday, it was down a little bit. Friday, reversed, got it all back. And of course, that's on the hopes of the tax plan going to pass. And I ask you, did you look at the tax plan? And what are your thoughts? I think it's just another garbage thing that we've seen put out that really will not help anybody except for the extremely wealthy. I do believe that, you saw Marco Rubio at the last moment do the holdup, right? And make sure he got some more welfare crap going out there. And again, I think this is another issue that we just like to continue to sweep under the carpet, right? All of these issues are ridiculous, right? And tie that into the debt ceiling extension for 2 weeks, which will come out, I believe, this Friday. Now, do you not think that there's gonna be a lot of crap in that bill to increase the debt ceiling? That's gonna be just more of the same. And of course, at the last minute, when nobody wants to be stuck and they all want to get home for Christmas, that they're just not going to sign a bad bill. Remember, it doesn't have the same effect on them that it has on the rest of us. And that's one of the problems I have with what's going on in the overall swamp, is you look at what they are able to do and what they're able to get away with, and I think that in itself creates the much bigger problems. So I don't believe that the overall stock market means a lot. I don't believe that we're going to see anything great, and especially even if you think the tax plan is good. The last time we had a tax holiday or a tax plan, 94% of that money went back to buybacks. So if you look at the average American that may get back, let's say $4,000. I don't know what the number is, but let's say it's $4,000. If you look at the average American that is having trouble taking care of their children, feeding them, clothing them, sending them to school, do you think that $4,000 is going to go back into the economy? I think not. I think that they've gotten a little bit afraid. I don't think you're seeing as much spending. Now, we've had a big bump in retail sales, and of course, we've had a big bump in some of the retailers. Macy's being one of them. I think it's up about 25%. Now, we called Macy's on this show a number of months ago saying that even their real estate was worth a ton and the company was well overvalued. It should rally. But we're seeing a dramatic increase at stores like Dollar General. That is not a sign of a strong and growing economy. That's a sign of people that are struggling, that they need to go to the least expensive store they can go to buy their goods. So now, if we look from that standpoint at what's growing here and what we're seeing from some growth, it's not growth into where we need it to be. It's into some lower end things. The other thing I think you're seeing is I think you're seeing profit margins that are going to be dramatically hacked down because of the battle for the consumer, the American consumer dollar during the holiday season, so we can put up some good numbers. I think that some of the prices you're seeing are extremely low. And I think they're very low on profit. I think the deals are out there much faster than they were. And I think that we're seeing a lot more skinny margins that we're going to see, which will affect the bottom line at some point. But we can report these good numbers. I mean, I've been into a couple of stores and I have not seen this overall big crowd they're talking about. I was just at the rodeo, the National Rodeo, which you could never even get a room in Las Vegas, let alone get a seat at the rodeo, and of course it was empty. All right. So, are we really seeing what they promise us, which is this growth. And again, I have a great deal of trouble talking about it. I'm seeing it. I don't see the overall growth. I think that what you're looking at here is a economy that is well behind the market, which is typical. But what you also have here is an economy that is being built and set up to fail again. Now, we continue to allow these big banks to grow. We continue to allow these, now the health organization, hospitals are now becoming too big to fail. When did it become acceptable that industries can become too big to fail? When they're going to fall apart. But the worst part of the too big to fail is the way that they can take advantage of the consumer. That's where I think is the problem, because it may not even be price fixing as we think about it, where it's actually really illegal price fixing. But if you wipe down all of the competition, you can naturally get fixed price fixing, because you don't need to, bring your prices down to be competitive. That's, I think, this will eventually destroy what's going on in retail, because what you have in retail right now is you've got Amazon, Walmart, you've got a second or third tier, and then you got the bottom. Well, the bottom is going out. Sears, Penny's, those guys aren't going to make it. Okay, Toys R Us. So now, if we get past that, then these people start closing, and what does that do? It reduces the competition. It reduces the fight to bring the best price to the consumer. And I think that's where you have this overall problem in everything, is because you've allowed the government to print too much money. You've allowed this whole system of debt to continue to accumulate. And of course, we have the biggest debt ever. Okay, and if you could take two items, student debt and auto loan debt, it's about 2 times the size of the debt that was created in the housing bubble. But again, you'll have experts now telling you that this market is different, this time is different, and of course we know that that is never the case. You can talk about it, you can pray for it, you can think on it, you can pray on it, it ain't different, all right? There is only so many things that you can do to create this mirage or this house of cards that they built before it falls down. Now, I'm not telling you to get short the market here. I'm not telling you that it's going over here. What I'm saying to you is just very simple, that the logical position of this market is ridiculous, because there is not the growth. They keep referring to some of these surveys. But just so you know, the Michigan Sentiment is done with 5,000 people. Now, are 5,000 people representative of what's going on in the United States? I would think not. I would think there's many, many big problems. I would think that the tax plan for corporations did not reach out to help the little guy. First of all, with the new tax rate, it was 20 and 25. I know 21 is the deal they kind of set on. But 20 for big business, 25 for little business and pass-throughs, does that help us? No, because that doesn't tighten up the wheels of competition. Another issue that I see. So again, this whole battle over the state and local tax deductions. In fact, I know it's going to be a problem. Why? Because my accountant called me and told me to pay my taxes, my real estate taxes for next year, which I'm doing. But at the end, does it make sense? All right, and is that going to be the benefit? And I think these are the overall issues that we face in a system. And I think the last issue here is the rising tide. You've heard the saying, rising tides lift all boats. Well, that was never really that true, but it did help a little bit. But what we're seeing now, just based on raw percentages, is the rising tide is lifting a lot fewer boats, all right? And that's another issue that has to be worried about, because it's going to continue to wipe out many of the small businesses and even some of the more middle or moderate businesses, because you cannot give the big companies such a dramatic advantage over the little companies. They already have the major advantage by their buying power, by their power of having less employees to do the same jobs that the small guy. I mean, if you look at just a regulator business, that you have to, many businesses have to have regulators, you have to have compliance staff. So if one compliance officer, and I don't know the exact numbers, but if one compliance officer can handle 1,000 people, but if I've got 100 people, I've got to pay that compliance over the same as if it was 1,000. They're getting a much better deal. The big companies are getting a much better deal. So I think that this really, even though both rates have come down, the separation between the two, I think, is still very dramatic and does not allow the smaller business guy to operate. So yes, the markets are at all-time highs. Yes, the Fed did raise rates a quarter point, and of course they did not give guidance that was bearish or hawkish. They gave more of the same old dovish crap, which only means that they're going to be more after us to get more of our tax dollars. I don't see the great joy, but it is the holiday season, and that's something that we have to think about, right? Santa Claus rally should figure. I think we wait. If we're going to get a sell-off anytime soon, it probably will not be until after the first of the year. So we'll see what it looks like. In the meantime, this is Bubba's Bottom Line, and I am Todd Bubba Horwitz. We're going to stop out of here for a break and just make sure to remind you, check out highschoolinvesting.com. You can see what we do there. And of course, patreon.com/Bubba Trading. Let you help me help our youth so that we can financially literate all these kids, and hopefully they can take care of the swamp problems that we have right now, because certainly we'd like to get this resolved. And of course, don't forget to get the Bubba Show every day at 2 to 3 Eastern at LibertyTalk.fm. You can hear the Bubba Show every single day. Welcome back to the Bubba Show. Todd Bubba Horwitz. Actually, this isn't the Bubba Show. This is Bubba's Bottom Line. I got so many Bubbas on my head. Anyways, as I always do at the end, I give you my views and my commentary. And today we're going to talk about, will we ever get back the free market system, the true free market system? You know, we can talk about the free markets now, but are they really free? And I think not. I think that based on, everybody is basing their decision based on the cost of money, to be able to manipulate the price of money, you know, the fractional banking that goes on, the Fed printing, the ECB printing, everybody, you know, kind of manipulating their dollars around, which really destroys the free market, which is why I believe that they're so afraid of the cryptocurrency world or the Bitcoin world, simply because it takes from them, all right? That is something that I think is a much bigger problem. Have you noticed the more acceptance by some of the more aggressive businesses that are now taking Bitcoin as payment? Why do they take it as payment? Well, A, maybe they convert it right away. Maybe they hold on to it. I know Patrick Burns, I believe, from Overstock holds on to it. But why does every offshore place want Bitcoin? Because it's a more true and free currency, because it's a free market currency. It trades 24 hours a day. There is no outside Fed manipulation in this case, or, you know, or the Bank of Japan or the Euro's central banks. We don't have that true free market and price discovery model right now. And that is becoming more destructive every single day, because the more you destroy that free market system, which we all love so much, the more you take away from the average family and give to the wealthy. And this is where we have to get past this and go back to a free market trade, and not have everything determined by an outside party such as the Federal Reserve that can have the ability to manipulate currency, that can have the manipulate to take care of price, because that does not help the average guy. So the artificial run we've had in the market, what have we really seen when we talk about how great the earnings are? We've seen companies buying back their own stock, reducing their size and taking in the money. Okay, so these are issues that have been taken away from you and me, from the free market system that then allows for competition. I know that we've seen this with Obamacare. That is not a free market, that's a crooked market, all right? It's a market that they continue to raise your prices. And now that the government is not funding these insurance companies who could just blindly take your money, we have to get back into a position where people and companies are fighting for your dollars, not knowing that they have a subsidy behind fighting for your dollars. This is what has happened to the overall system. It has been destructed by all of the actions that have been taken by the Fed, by the governments around the world, by the central banks around the world. They have systematically destroyed the free markets. And if you believe in the conspiracy theory of what the Fed is, this is exactly their plan. And if you happen to go back and read some of the articles that have been written about this, or if you listen to some of these things, this is the exact game plan that was laid out in The Creature from Jekyll Island. Okay, how they are systematically going to destroy the middle class. Now, again, you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist. This was written, and this is how I see what's going on in the overall economy and in the markets, the lack of true free markets. So when you destroy free markets based on you begging for inflation, based on you're letting them create debt out of money that they're not going to have to pay back, that we're going to have to pay back for it, I believe that is the overall destruction of a true free market. And when you get rid of true free markets, you take away the opportunity for the entrepreneur, for the small business guy, for the middle class to really thrive and move in the system. And I think that's the problem. Now, I believe that it will eventually work itself out, because I do believe that you will see somewhat of a meltdown, but it really will be not the meltdown that comes, it will be how it's handled the next time it happens. Because the way that it was handled the last 10 years was as bad as it can get, it was as dumb as it can get, and a lot of people that shouldn't have stole a lot of money because of what they did. That's it for today. This is Bubba's Bottom Line. We'll see you back here right before Christmas. And of course, always great to be with you. And don't forget to get Bubba's Daily Update every single day. I email it directly to you. All you have to do is go to bubbatrading.com and sign up for it. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time here on Bubba's Bottom Line. Take care, everybody.